it. I'm not very preppy, but
That's all right. Okay. All right, we'll pause for a second. Well, hi, Muffy. I am so happy to have you here on with me today. I have really been looking forward to chatting with you.
thanks for having me. It's an honor to be a part.
You have just a really amazing life story, and as I mentioned in the introduction, a lot of what drew me to wanting to talk to you was just knowing how you faced adversity and how you got back up, and not just got back up, but like got back up and did some amazing things that are on most people's bucket lists. And so I would love to hear about, just going way back, hear about where you come from and who your influences were as a kid growing up, and what shaped you into the person that you are now. So what was childhood like for you?
Oh. I had a wonderful childhood. I'm so blessed. I grew up in, a famous ski resort, Sun Valley, Idaho. And that was, my backyard was the mountain, one of the world famous ski mountains. Started skiing when I was 3 years old, and just felt like I had found my special gift. And by the time I was 7, I vowed to my parents that I was going to ski race in the Olympics. And um, for me, I mean, that was just, I was a competitor. I guess, I was a ski racer, but I was competitive. I still am competitive. And as a young kid, ski team was just a great area for me in a way I could focus my energy. How I even knew what the Olympics were at 7 years old, I think has to do with the fact that I grew up in a ski resort where there are all these other athletes. And um, one of my childhood mentors and kind of heroes was Gretchen Frazier, who
Hmm.
was the first American, male or female, to win a gold medal in alpine skiing. And she won that in 1948 in St. Moritz, Switzerland.
Wow,
And I was blessed to know her growing up. And
that's amazing.
yeah, I mean, and I go over to her house for tea and hear stories about, what it was like when they had the wooden skis. And her husband was also an Olympian. And he told me about, going to the Olympics on a boat across when he made his skis on the boat, and just got to really have that huge, amazing experience and these wonderful mentors in my life that, inspired me to go out and be my best. And Gretchen taught me so many things, but there was a run up on the ski mountain that they had named after Gretchen called Gretchen's Gold, and the resort owners had renamed it for her in honor of her gold medal win. And I used to ski that as a little kid, and I would say, someday when I grow up, I'm going to win a medal, and they're going to rename a run after me. So it was kind of the combination of the wonderful people I had around me, the community that I lived in, and the opportunities that where I was afforded and blessed to have, that kind of helped me get onto that track of being what I said God made me to be, which is a ski racer.
And you said that you were always very competitive. So maybe you kind of like leaped out of the womb with that competitive nature. But who were your other influences in, growing up? Did your parents kind of tell you you can do whatever you want to do? And how much did they influence the way that you turned out as an adult?
Well, I think, yeah, my parents were both very athletic, and they were
Hmm.
both skiers, and they loved to ski. So they put me into ski school and ski team, thinking it was a great babysitter, having no idea, I think, that how competitive I was going to be. But they never put limits on me, and I think that was incredibly helpful. I never question, could I be a female athlete? My dad was a physician. I always said I was going to be a doctor growing up, and my parents were like, great,
Hmm.
you can do, what do you want to do? You can do anything you want to do. And I think, it was I always said I had good timing. Once in my life, I was born in 72, which was the year that Title IX was enacted. And so
Hmm.
that afforded women so many opportunities, strong legislation for equal rights, equal access to sports and all of this. And I never questioned, having grown up as a Title IX baby, I never questioned as a woman, could I do this? And my parents, I was the firstborn. So, it wasn't like it was my brother, or I had a younger brother. I have two younger brothers, but a fair difference in age between us. So Yeah, we just, I started backpacking at 4 or 5 as soon as I
Mm-hmm.
could carry a pack, and they'd stuff it with candy. And we just always did lots of stuff, and there were no limits put on me. So, I mean, I'm very thankful to them. I also had great, we had a great ski team here. One of my fellow young competitors was Peekaboo Street, and she was an Olympic gold and silver medalist, ended up going on, but was a wonderful athlete. We weren't the closest of friends. We would definitely say we were rivals, but growing up, if we hadn't had that healthy competition, I think that helped me to be as good as I was as well. Like I knew every day if I wanted to be number one, I had to go out and had to train, and I had to keep training. I couldn't lay in bed and take a day off or things like that because she wasn't. So it was a healthy competition, healthy rivalry there.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna pause for 1 second because my son just walked in
No
here. Was
problem.
that you making all that noise in the bathroom? Okay, well, I'll come help you with the splinter in just a minute. Okay, do you want to say hi to Muffy? Come over here. Come here. You can say hi. This is Logan.
Hi,
This
Logan.
is Logan. You say hi.
How old are you?
Okay, we're gonna here. Put this on. Here.
How old are
You
you?
hear
How
that?
old are you, Logan?
She's asking, how old are you?
I'm 8 years old.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. 8 years.
What do
Is
you
that
what do
second
you
or
like to
third
do in
grade?
the winter?
Um,
Third grade. You're going to third grade?
I'm going to 3rd grade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what do you do in the winter? Do you like to ski?
Yes.
Awesome. Good, good,
I'll
good. We'll
show
have to go
you.
skiing sometime together.
I'll show you some videos of Muffy skiing after we're all done, okay? All right. Now, we have to finish our meeting, so can you go find Daddy and I will help you get your splinter out afterwards, okay? Okay. All right.
I
You
know
close it.
I
Okay.
know where Papa is.
Okay. You close the door. I promise I'll help you after. You have to be very quiet out there. Leave it, please. Just leave it. Just close the door. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Oh,
I know
it's
you're a mom, so
I'm so glad that happens to someone else because I've had multiple times I was on a live show once and Elle's like rolling in here and acting behind me while I'm doing it. I'm like, oh my. So it's nice to
but
know real world.
here we'll start recording now. We'll actually talk about that. So, well, I'm cutting this part out of the podcast, but we were we were just interrupted by my son, who's 8 years old, and you and I were laughing about how this happens. And so you were saying you have been on television live or being recorded live, and you had your kids coming around the background.
I have one, and yeah, that's why I now lock my bedroom door or I lock the door wherever I am, so that I can try and have. I've done interviews and podcasts in our bathroom sometimes because it's the only place I know I won't get interrupted. I have done it everywhere, so it's just.
I'm in my closet right now, so you would think you would not come into my closet, but oh well. And I think we're going a little off topic right now, but I think that it's okay. I think being women and being in situations where we are being recorded on audio or being in video and showing that we can be professionals and we can do all the things that we do and still be moms, and that we embrace kind of all the different parts of ourselves. I think it's an important thing to show the listeners and the viewers that this is all part of us, right?
Exactly. Well, we're definitely multifaceted. There's no way. And I think that's what brings the strength for women. And I think it also, what I love about your podcast is, I mean, that's the 6% because we have to deal with not only, the job and the glass ceiling and all of the other things that were challenging, but we also have these kids, and while we are lucky, we do live in a day and age where men do more than they typically were and are more involved, and my husband's really good at doing floors. I don't do floors, but we still are the ones that they come to. We're always managing or trying to juggle all of that, and I only have one kid. I don't know how anyone does more than one because it's overwhelming just one.
Yes. Right. I hear you. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened to you when you were in your teens. So you grew up skiing, I mean, probably before you were really even talking, right? And that was just so much a part of your life, a huge, huge part of your life. And then tell me what happened when you were 16.
So yeah, so my dream was to be a ski racer, and I was climbing that ranks. I had set a goal to go to the Olympics someday,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working towards that. And I climbed the ranks. I'd been named to the U.S. development ski team. I'd been invited to ski race in Europe to represent the U.S. in some races over in Europe, and so I was hopefully eventually going to be making that step up to the U.S. full team, and then eventually the Olympics. Until an early morning when I was 16 in 1989, I went off of an early morning downhill training course here in my hometown in Sun Valley on the mountain that I had spent most of my life on. Like, I had grown up on this mountain. I knew it
Yeah.
like the back, just like my backhand. And it was just an early morning. It was a course we had never run before. Usually we would go down these big open main field, and we would go up before they'd open to the public because it was safer without a bunch of moving targets, and we're running at high speeds.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular course they set went and navigated a cat track, and it was on that cat track that had a really sharp turn, greater than 90-degree turn, that I just lost control. I was going at a
Wow.
high rate of speed, wasn't able to hold the apex of the turn, and went flying off the cat track. And I flew about 15 feet, and I hit the first tree with my back, and I bounced off of that tree and flew another 5 feet and hit the next tree with my head, shattering my fiberglass helmet. Thankfully, my parents had bought one of the best helmets out there. They had spent so much on my orthodontic work, I think they were protecting my teeth, but
Yeah.
fortunately it saved my head. And
Yeah.
but unfortunately, that first tree that I impacted, I didn't have a shell or anything protecting my spine and my back, and I was stabilized, rushed to the local hospital, but my dad, who was the local radiologist, had to read my x-rays. And
Yeah.
when he put the x-ray up of where I'd impacted the tree, which is middle of my chest, my thoracic, fifth and sixth vertebrae, he
Mm-hmm.
knew how bad it was. And fortunately, we had wonderful spinal surgeon, back surgeon here in our town, which was amazing, because now I would have to, even now, I'd have to be flown out. That they have, just changed with trauma and stuff. But I was able to have my surgery here, relieve the pressure on the spine here. They thought everything, the best that it could be. And the next morning, woke up in the ER or in intensive care. And
Mm-hmm.
the doctors come in and pull the covers back and say, Muffy, I want you to move your toes. And I looked down, thought move toes, because every time for 16 years they had. And I looked down and they didn't move. And it
Yeah.
was at that moment where I realized, oh my gosh, what's happened? What's my life?
And that was when you knew. That was when you knew.
I wouldn't even say I knew. It was just so, the emotion was so it was too much. It was, I couldn't even understand it. I couldn't comprehend. And
Yeah.
I was just devastated at that moment. Something
Right.
was wrong. My toes didn't move. I think I looked at my parents. I'm like, am I paralyzed? I start bawling. It was just, too much to try and even take in.
Right. And I noticed on your website, one of the things that you talk about is you don't just survive, you thrive. And how long did it take you to get to that and to think about that concept and say, you know what, I need to do more than just get through this? And what does that mean to you, and how did you end up living it?
Yeah, well, at first I was, like you can imagine, I was devastated. It was overwhelming. But
Yeah.
being a typical competitor, I just rechanneled all of my competitive energy after time. I got stabilized medically. I went to a special rehab
Yeah.
hospital. While I was in the special rehab hospital, I learned about all these new things I could do. If I wanted to, I could ski again. And in my mind, I'm walking again. Like, I was competitive.
Yeah.
I wanted to heal and walk. And so I'm like, I'm not skiing unless I'm standing up on two skis. And I'm going to walk at my high school graduation. I set all these other goals for my rehabilitation. And
Mm-hmm.
I kept working on it. And, I kind of just, I think that's maybe a gift of being a competitor, or one of those things, is that I knew how to set goals. I knew how to look ahead. Now, when it came to acceptance of, we're talking 2 years down the road, and I've been going to physical therapy 5 days a
Yeah.
week for multiple hours, have not had any functional return below my injury level. I'm still, paralyzed. I'm still in a wheelchair. I kind of start to realize that I'm probably not going to wake up tomorrow and swing my legs out of bed. And I kind of start getting to that. And, my mom was she was very supportive, but she was very, there was a lot of, she wanted me to heal too. She wanted, so she was putting all this energy. And I remember one day at 18, I just looked over to my mom and I said, Mom, I don't want to miss 18. I don't want to miss 19. I don't want to miss 20. I don't want to miss it all because I'm therapy, constantly trying to get better. And this is probably not going to happen. Like if I could have willed my nerves to heal, I would have, but it wasn't going to be able to happen at this point. And I wasn't getting any regeneration and they hadn't come out with a cure yet. And I looked at her and I said, I promise I'll keep myself healthy and strong. And if they do come out with a cure, I'll be a good candidate. But I just can't keep doing 5 days a week of this therapy. I got to live. I got to get involved in life again. And not that I hadn't been living. I mean, I've been doing stuff, but I had been so focused on walking again that I was missing a lot of my life. And I was missing being 18, 19. And I was going to go to college and I wanted to have as a normal, whatever normal might be, college experience.
Yeah. And so you did end up going to college. You went to Stanford. So you were at Stanford the same time I was at UCLA. I think you and I graduated actually the same exact year.
Oh my gosh, too funny. That's great. That means we played in football games. You guys probably crushed us. Those were the Bill Walsh years. We didn't have the best.
Yeah. So you went on to college, and then when did you get back on the slopes? Because as I mentioned earlier in the intro, you are a well-decorated Paralympics slalom skier, multiple different events, in fact. And when did you say, okay, you know what? This is what it is. I'm going to get back on the mountain.
So, there was kind of multiple steps. I got back on the mountain a lot sooner than I got back in the race course because that actually the winter after I had broken my back, we were back home here and, I had vowed that I'm not getting up on skis unless I'm on 2 skis, and I wasn't walking obviously, and I was in therapy. But then the snow starts to fall and you could see my parents' dilemma because we moved to Sun Valley because they love to ski and they love the mountains. And finally they just said, okay, Muffy, we're going to go skiing. And for me, like the mountain had been my release. That was my getaway. That's where if, I had a bad day or I got a bad exam grade or a guy didn't like me or whatever, I'd go up on the mountain and none of that mattered. And so I missed that piece. I missed that, it was kind of like your best friend, like space with your best friend. And in fact, I wrote my Stanford entrance exam about my relationship with the mountain and how, it had been my release. And then it was the place where my life took a change of direction and how I wanted to get back to that release again in that relationship and how relationships are always evolving. So that next winter, I decided that, okay, I'm going to get back on the mountain, not the way I had once hoped to, but if I had to, I wanted to be on the mountain. So I went and took lessons and learned how to adaptive ski on this thing called a monoski. And instead of going to the bunny slopes or the bottom, I'm like, no, I'm a hotshot 16-year-old ski racer. I'm going to go right back to the top of the mountain. And it was disastrous.
Oh my goodness.
I fell, I hurt, I go over where on the chairlift, you could see where I had my accident. You go right by that. Then emotionally, I'm a mess. And
oh my gosh.
every day. And instead of I think I spent a little time on the bunny slopes, but not much. And my injury level is quite high for ski racing, for the sport, and especially with the equipment back then. And we just, we didn't know what we didn't know. And so we got the wrong equipment and we set it up incorrectly and just everything we did. I think everything, looking in hindsight, wrong the first couple of years. But, I was determined to be back on that mountain. That's where I wanted to be. And instead of it being a release, it became this challenge to overcome, it seemed like.
Yeah.
More a determination. But by the time I went to Stanford, I was not skiing independently. I was, I just needed a break. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I chose sunny California to get away from the snow. But while we were there, I went up to Alpine Meadows up at Tahoe, and I started taking adaptive lessons with an instructor who knew how to set up the equipment right, who knew how to teach. And I had to mentally and emotionally think of it as a new sport. It was too hard to try and think of it as me being, you know, at the pinnacle of this elite level athlete in this sport. And now here I am on the bunny slopes and can't even do 2 turns. And so once I thought of it as a new sport, got the right equipment, got a good instructor, things started to go a lot better. And then I actually entered my first adaptive ski race the year after or that next winter after I graduated from college. You know, I did every parent's worst nightmare and moved back home and became a ski bum, college graduate.
And it wasn't all that long after that. So that would have been 1995, 96, right?
Yep.
By 1998, you won the bronze medal at the Paralympics in Nagano. I mean, that's to say that like you were learning a brand new sport and then to reach that pinnacle of performances is really amazing. And so tell me a little bit about the journey to there and beyond, because you kept getting medals in 2000 and 2002 and so on.
Yeah, well, I think the thing about adaptive sports is once you kind of get the equipment, really it's so equipment dependent. And once I could get my equipment figured out for me, I knew ski racing. So I had that advantage that once I could just get a turn or link a couple turns or get it so that I could functionally do it, I knew how to do it. My biggest problem and actually in 98 was that I knew the fast line. I just didn't have the functional ability to hold the fast line a lot of times. And so actually in 98, 2 weeks before I went to the Paralympic Games, I had my first international World Cup competition, and I ended up winning 3 gold medals. I had no expectations. I had no idea. I had never raced any of these women internationally. And I leave that. And then 2 weeks later, I go halfway around the world to Nagano, Japan. And I fell in those same 3 events. And it was devastating. And let me just tell you, like, it was just, because I was like, wait a minute, I like peaked 2 weeks too early. Like, it was like, but I think the difference is that I pushed so hard because, well, I probably also choked. I mean, it was so many emotions going in the Paralympic Games, and you have, not only do you have the physical issues, you have the mental and emotional and all of that, because you have this 1 week that you've lived your life for, and it's really hard. And then you have World Cup events that we do all the time, and you know, you'll win those, but nobody in the world knows about those. It's the Olympics and the Paralympics is what at least the U.S. market knows most about. So it was really hard to fall in those events. And then I finally got up and I finished that slalom. For me, honestly, that was one of the hardest things, was just getting back on the hill that 4th day after 3 falls. I mean, my parents flew halfway around the world and didn't even get to see me on the Jumbotron. But I finally put 2 solid runs together and I won that bronze medal. And people see it and they say, gosh, it looks gold. And I tell them I painted it, because I said it's my gold medal after all of those challenges and all of, you know, when I set that goal at 7 years old, did I ever think I'd be there in a wheelchair? And so for so many reasons. And you know, I was blessed that it was a new year. It was my first year. That's why I decided I was going to keep going. And I knew I had more to offer. I also knew the games were coming to Salt Lake City, Utah in 2002, which is my backyard. So I'm so blessed in so many ways when you think about just it all worked out. And I was able to then continue on and make it to the team in 2002 and compete, represent my country. I was one of 2 athletes selected to light the cauldron in the opening ceremonies. And this time finally get up on the podium and win 3 silver medals in those 3 events that I've fallen in. So.
It's phenomenal. It's just amazing. And so then after that year, 2002, is when you decided to retire, correct? From ski racing.
I retired from all competition. I was done. I thought, you know, it can't get any better than having it in your home country, lighting the cauldron, getting on the podium 3 times. I had met a great guy. You know, I was going to be an adult. I was growing up. I'm going to get a job and be real, not just an athlete all the time.
Well, but then, you know, and I love, like, I'm loving just hearing you tell me about your story and your life, because it reminds me of the, you know, the commercials where you're like, And then wait, there's more. Because there's more, and it's mind-blowing, and it's so cool to talk to you about it. You shortly after that became the first female paraplegic to climb a greater than 14,000 foot peak, which was Mount Shasta. And so you did that, and then
wow, you've
you
done
went
your
on
research. Good.
I was like, she is so cool. I gotta read up on her. Yeah, so you did that, and then you got into hand cycling, and then you were on the U.S. national team for that. Tell me about just the evolution of your ongoing competitiveness and just willingness to just thrive, and you're kind of just taking life by the horns and, riding that bull.
I firmly believe that when opportunity presents itself, you've got to grab for it. And I've been blessed, and lots of amazing opportunities have presented. So the Shasta event was kind of just this fluke. My husband, we weren't married at the time, I don't think. Yeah, we weren't married because we didn't get married in 2000 till 2004. So my husband was my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband. We were watching a Dateline NBC show on this guy, Peter Reiki, who climbed Mount Rainier in Washington. He was a paraplegic, and he had built this special piece of adaptive equipment called a snow pod, and he put it all together. He'd been an engineer, and had his accident, and he's like, I love to mountain climb, and that's what I love, and I'm not going to stop. So he used his engineering know-how and made this equipment. And at the end of his wonderful story on Dateline, he mentioned that he was trying to get a team together to climb Mount Shasta in 2002. And I haphazardly lean over to my husband and go, that sounds like fun. Unbeknownst to me, he knew Peter Reiki. So my husband now, he was and is a recreation therapist and is in adaptive sports and stuff. And Peter had this company. And so through all of that, so Jeff got on the email and sent Peter an email saying, oh, we just saw your story. This is great. And my wife, ski racer, whatever. Sorry, my girlfriend. It was hard so far ago. But he just mentioned that I said it would be interesting. And Peter invited me to be part of the team. So,
wow.
It was just this fluke. And my sport was 2 minutes long. And Shasta was by far one of the hardest things I think I've ever done in my life. It was 5.5 days. And all of the other guys that were on the team, we had a great group, but we had Mark Wellman, who's the paraplegic who climbed El Capitan and Half Dome in Yosemite. We had this young buck named Keegan Riley who climbed Mount Fuji in Japan on this adaptive equipment. And then Peter, who's a mountaineer who climbed Rainier. And then there's me, and I'm like, what am I doing with these guys? And one day I leaned over to Mark Wellman, and I go, Mark, do your arms hurt? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, thank God, because mine are killing me. But it was a great group, and we had, the thing about it was truly a team effort, and it was not just the 4 of us climbing, but our support team, because we couldn't have done it without all of them. And to get to the top was, was one of those amazing experiences. But for me, for years, I had Mount Shasta as my screensaver on my computer, because you don't get to see the view from the top that often, but you get to look back there and go, I was there once, and if I can do that, I know I can do it again. So
it must have been. I'm sorry. It must have been cool to be in this collaborative team situation after so long in both ski racing and even in Paralympic racing, very much an individual sport, right?
Yes, totally. And that's the thing. It wasn't like the snow pods also were not a speed event. Peter had lots of gears, but usually you were climbing in the low gear, and in the low gear, every arm crank moved you 1.5 inches. So we are moving at a snail's pace. So it's not like we're racing to get to the top and to say, I was the first one. It was the team effort to get to the top, and the team had to work together, and the team was on ropes. And then our support structure carried, all our tents, set up all our stuff, cooked all our food, and made it so that we could just focus on climbing 10 hours a day. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it was really, for me, it was really rewarding because I'd always been an independent individual sport athlete. You know, I played soccer in high school before my accident, and I always had a hard time with team sports just because I was defense, and if they got a goal, I always felt guilty. And at least on an individual sport, it was all on you. You win or lose on your own. And so it was hard. But this, and maybe it was great because we all succeeded, and that's why I can say, but I mean, we did, and together, and we all had struggles, and you know, there were hard days, but we got through it, and we got to the top, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. And so two other things you pivoted to. One was hand cycling. I am interested in kind of how you say that a lot of kind of along the way, just interesting kind of a sequence of events have brought you to these opportunities or brought these opportunities to you. How did hand cycling happen?
So, so my husband and I took a year actually and took off of work. I took a sabbatical from where I was, and he had just graduated with his master's and wasn't going to go back yet to do anything. So we took a year and we traveled around the world volunteering and teaching adaptive sports and recreation to people with disabilities. And after that, we came back home and we're joining the normal. And what was the next step? We've been married for a year and a half or two. Well, we wanted to start a family. So we were fortunate that in December of 2008, we gave birth to a healthy baby girl. And I think I did at that moment what every woman does after you have a baby. And I go, what happened to my body? Like I looked down, I'm like, having been an athlete my whole life, like I just like wanted to get back in shape and fit again. And I knew one of the best sports for people with disabilities, spinal cord injuries, is hand cycling, which is actually a fairly new sport. It didn't even exist when I first had my accident. So, so I had been granted a hand cycle from an organization called Challenged Athletes Foundation, and they had granted me a hand cycle that I'd had, but I just got more competitive on that. And I like, okay, I set a goal, being a typical competitor, to do the Salt Lake City Marathon about 4 months after my daughter was born. Just so if I set that goal, I'd actually train. If I don't have a goal, I won't get out and train. It's one of those, I don't know. So I did the marathon, and there I met some other adaptive hand cyclists, and they kind of showed me the ropes, because every sport's different. And just because I knew ski racing didn't mean I understood how the path with hand cycling. And they told me about some adaptive camps that I should go to learn more about the sport, because frankly, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about cadence or gearing or shifting or any of that. So I just wanted to learn. And from that, it evolved to, Nationals is over in Bend, Oregon this summer, and you should go to Nationals and see where you are. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to load my baby up. And my mother-in-law got in the car with me, and we headed over to Bend, Oregon to check out U.S. National hand cycling. And I ended up leaving that week as the U.S. champion in my group, women's hand cycle champion.
That's amazing.
Which
that
was
amazing.
It was kind of a fluke. I mean, again, it was a new sport. There were not a lot of athletes, so it was, easier to rise to the top. But by winning that, it put me on the U.S. Paracycling World Championship team for later that summer. So I get on my phone with my husband, and I'm like, are we going to do this? Like, I was done with competition. I thought I just wanted to get in shape, but
and little did you know.
Yeah. And being a typical, competitor, well, first, my husband was amazingly supportive. I have to give him so much credit, because instead of being like, no, you got a job and you have a kid and this and that, he goes, I can't imagine a better role model for you to be for our daughter than to chase after that goal and to try and do the best that you can. And he also knew, as much as I was so proud of those 3 silver medals and that bronze, there's always that elusive gold medal out there that you're like, you just gotta, can I do it? I want to go for it. So.
All right, I've got this little guy here again. Logan, you really need to give me like just 10 more minutes, please. All right, you're gonna lose a beam. You need to leave the room and don't come back in for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Yep, go set a timer. Close the door.
These are the outtakes that are going to be precious someday.
I know,
you're going to show it at his wedding or something. Like, here's mom trying to work.
Think it, you're going to lose a beam. I'm not kidding. we have a bean system where he gets screen time for, like, we have a little bean bank. And so like when he's not listening, he loses a bean. Yeah, no, and thank goodness for like separate audio tracks, because you did great. You kept talking and I'm like,
It's good. Obviously, I'm a mom as well. I've learned how to.
Yeah, no, thank you for understanding.
Not a
And
problem.
the other thing is, my husband is also not doing his job right now. His job was to keep him occupied.
You can get on him afterwards.
Yes, I will. All right. Yeah, and I wanted to, we'll start again in 1 second. I wanted to talk a little bit about what you're doing now. And so we'll jump back into that. And then I'll ask you, your advice, and then we'll talk about where people can find you. Does that sound
Perfect.
good?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right, here we go. Starting up again. Well, so after all of those years where you were essentially dominating in sports, several different types of sports, you then pivoted into politics. So tell me a little bit about how you made that transition, what you're doing now, and you're a representative in Idaho, right? And just tell me how you ended up here, and how your previous experiences have helped you in this role, and also what did you learn that was new from pivoting?
Oh gosh, I'm still learning daily. Well, I think the plan was not to go into politics. I don't think, I'm not sure. Maybe some people know that that's what they want to be, but I was here working. We had moved back to my hometown from Salt Lake City. We'd been in Idaho for a couple of years, or about a year and a half. And this was in mid 2016, I guess. And then really what happened was the 2016 election happened. And before my daughter went to bed, we were all excited about maybe the first woman president, female president. It was just this energy. My daughter, I think, was 7 or 8 years old at the time, the same age as your son. And just, it was really a fun energy. And then she went to bed. And the next morning I had to tell her the results, and it wasn't what she was expecting. And she started crying because she was worried that a lot of her friends were going to have to leave, because we have a lot of migrant workers here. We're hospitality as well as a lot of agriculture. Yeah. And so we have a lot of Latino and other friends here. And I looked at her and I'm like, no, they're not going to have to leave, and I'm going to get involved. So I got involved. I've never been really politically involved or whatever, but I think after the first Women's March in 2017, they started an Indivisible chapter up here. And I just wanted to get involved. I just wanted to show my daughter that, like, you can make a change, and everyone can make a difference, and you need to get involved. And so leaving that first meeting, somehow I got assigned chair of the healthcare and women's rights group. I don't know how it happened. I think nobody stepped up and, give someone who's busy give them a job, they'll get it done. But, and that just kind of rolled. Then someone came up and planted a seed. They're like, well, no one's running for this seat. I had a job. We had just moved. But they planted the seed, and I'm like, no, in 7 or 8 years, maybe I'll think about it. But right now I have a kid at home and all this. And then I wasn't as thrilled in my job and things. And I knew this was a seat that had typically been held in by a Democratic seat. And then in 2012, when the past legislator had retired, it flipped to a Republican seat. And our district's pretty purple, but traditionally up where I live has been Democratic in the Sun Valley area, at least elected. And I just knew that I had at least enough name recognition in my area as the other representative, and people weren't happy. There were some things he was doing with our public lands, and they just weren't happy with his policy. So I just decided I was going to throw my hat in the ring and try, and then heaven forbid I won. So
wow.
So I knew nothing. Again, the same deal as like cycling. I knew nothing about it, but when opportunity presents and you try. And so the thing I love, it's an immense honor to be able to be the voice for the people and to be able to try and make a change. It's hard. We're a super minority here in Idaho, so we can't really introduce a whole lot of legislation, but we can stop the real egregious and terrible ones. But we are also there. The neat thing is it's not just about passing those bills, it's about being a voice for people and helping when my constituents call, and I can connect them to solutions for whatever they need in their day in and day out. And that I treasure, and that is really an honor to be able to find the solutions for some people. And with this COVID that we've been going through and all of these challenges, whether it be unemployment, housing challenges, all the different, or getting testing. Right now we're dealing with some testing issues here in my community, getting access to that. We need more of it. People want to know. That is an honor to be able to pick up the phone and call, whether it
For some reason, the screen just froze. Uh-oh. Let's see. Technical difficulties here.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Yeah,
Sorry.
you're back.
Okay.
Yeah, it just like froze for a second and I got lost all the audio, but it was maybe 10 seconds.
Okay. Do you want me to go back?
It's an honor to, and that's kind of where it dropped off.
Okay. Well, I can it's an immense honor to be able to represent my constituents and to try and find those solutions. We've had a lot of challenges with COVID, and, I get regular calls, and that I enjoy immensely. The partisan politics stuff is really hard because I believe most of us are in that middle there. Most of us want what's best for our kids. We all want about the same things. We want good education. We want healthcare, and there's solutions. But unfortunately, in the day that we're in right now, there's not a lot of that conversation going on. And I hope we can get back there. That's my goal, is that we get back to the things that really matter. I believe we can.
I think we will.
Yeah.
So I always ask my guests what their number one piece of advice is to women who want to do what they do. What is your one single best piece of advice?
Oh gosh, it's hard to limit to one, but if anything, I would say build that strong support system around you. I couldn't have done anything in ski racing, in cycling, in my political career without this amazing group of, whether it be my women friends, my husband, my community, my family, but build that strong support system. And then I take it the next step is I say, be that strong support system for someone else. I've always said, I don't want to be that person that says, you want to do what? That's impossible. I want to be the person that says, you want to do what? How can I help you? And so those are the people I try and surround myself around, and I try and be that to my community.
It's like paying it forward, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
We're all so blessed in so many ways, and we have that ability of how can I make it better for you? How can I help you get to the top of that podium? And because I've been blessed, and so many have helped me in so many ways.
I love that. I think our listeners will enjoy that and the rest of our talk here so much. I know that they are going to want to follow you and keep up with you and see what else you're up to. So where can our listeners find you online?
Sure. Well, I have Facebook and Instagram, just Muffy Davis, or my political one is Muffy for Idaho. So you can find me on either of that. And then I have a website, Muffy for Idaho or muffydavis.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I got to super selfishly get to learn all about the things that you do and what makes you tick and what makes you keep going. And I think I learned a lot, and I definitely got a lot of pearls from our talk and made some mental notes for, okay, what do I need to do to keep meeting those goals? Well, you got to make goals, right, to start.
Well, I think you're doing pretty darn good. You're doing awesome.
Well,
thanks.
Well, thank you. It was so nice to talk to you. Thanks for spending the time with me, and best wishes in this coming year.
Thank you for all you do, and thanks for this wonderful podcast. You're bringing so much great joy and important inspiration to the world. We need it.
Thank you. All right. Well, it's a wrap.
Thank you. Thanks for the honor.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for taking the time with me, and I'm so glad you're a mom too.
Yeah, no problem. Do you guys come over here to Sun Valley at all?
It's on my list.
Okay, well, make
I
sure
have
that you
yet to go.
you tell Reagan. When you tell Reagan, make sure we get to meet in person and go take some
Absolutely.
runs.
I would
Okay,
love that. I would totally love
definitely.
that. All right.
You,
Have a great rest of your Sunday.
thank you. Thanks so much. It's an honor.
All
And let
right.
me know when it's going to air. I'll share
I
it out.
will. Yep.
Okay,
I will give you an email. I'll send you a couple sharing images. And so you'll get that in the email.
perfect. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.